The period between the Walker Report's publication and your deciding to run for governor, what went on? What were you thinking about it? Did people come up to you immediately after the Walker Report and say, you know, you could be governor? This is excellent. How did that come about?
No. I had 7 children. One of them, my son Charles, has been with me on this book tour, and a wonderful son he is, and all of those children, and now I have 22 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. But I set about raising a family, and when you have 7 children and want to plan for college and all of that kind of thing, you don't have much time left over to do money. To engage in politics, and you have to have enough to support the family if you're going to go out there and run for office. So I just could not get involved directly in running for office. But then I felt strongly. I worked on that commission to study state government, the Little Hoover Commission, after I got out of law school. That taught me something about state government. And I watched the governors. I finally came to the conclusion that only by being governor in this state could you change the rotten system. And so I decided that if I could ever get the opportunity to do so, I would. And when I became Vice President General Counsel of Montgomery Ward, I had a decent enough salary, I was able to do it. I said, enough. I'm going to step out there and run for governor, and I did. And I wasn't encouraged to do so. Actually, people said, have you lost your mind running against the Daley machine? But I did it. And that's when I made the marvelous decision to walk the state and meet the people of Illinois. And boy, did I meet them. I stayed every night with a different family. And they were wonderful to me. I'll never forget it.
Whose idea was it to walk the state? That was, and probably one of the most effective political maneuvers in quite a few years in Illinois. It got everyone's attention, sometimes not as much attention, but it built and it built and it built. And everyone will remember that. They'll remember the bandana you have around your neck right now. Was that a staff idea, or did you kick it around one day and decide this will be an excellent thing to both meet the people in Illinois, but also the PR we get from this effect?
Yes, that was exactly the conversation. Lawton Childs, a very wonderful United States Senator and Governor of the state of Florida, did it before me. And I talked with Lawton about it, and he said, Dan, it's a great way to meet the people of the state and learn at the same time. I mean, most guys who run for governor, they get out there and they get into an airplane and they fly around the state. They jump out and they hold a press conference and shake a few hands. They go to a county fair, and that's their idea of downstate. No governor before me has ever learned downstate as completely as I did. And it was the walk that did that. And it was the walk, more importantly, I think, that introduced me to the heart and soul of the people of this state. And also, gee, Bernie, I'll never forget. I was in a restaurant having breakfast at the end of the walk, and this waitress came over to me. And when I was getting up to go, she came over and she put her arm around me. And she said, honey, please take care of your feet. I know what it's like to be on your feet for hours, so please take care of your feet.
When you ran in the primary, you ran against Paul Simon,
yes,
a Southern Illinois Democrat,
yes,
a Democrat that had a fair amount of visibility in the Chicago area.
Yes. I
can recall as a young person watching Cups show, Irv Cups in it on Sunday night, and Paul Simon was on there.
Yes.
And so this was not an unknown, and you were not a Southern Illinois person. The machine was definitely, the Chicago organization was definitely not in your favor, and you won.
Yes.
You won. How do you tell me about winning? I mean, where did the votes come that put you in?
Downstate.
Downstate.
And now, sure, Chicago, because a Democrat cannot win in the state of Illinois without having a strong vote up there in the city of Chicago. But it was that independence, that streak of independence, that I think people cotton to up there in Chicago, and people like to see a counterweight up there between Springfield and Chicago, and I offered that. Paul Simon, I knew Paul Simon, and a good man, an honest man, but he was my opponent. And people down there in southern Illinois said to me, I heard that first there, you know, Paul is going to kowtow to Daley when the chips are down. And that is right there, that sentence. Paul will kowtow to Daley when the chips are down. That's what enabled me to beat Paul Simon in the background of the walk. Can't tell you how many people I met on that walk who said that Paul Simon walked away from us and embraced Dick Daley. I walked to the people, not away from them.
And in the general election, you defeated Governor Richard Ogilvie.
Yes.
Many people will say that the income tax is what beat Richard Ogilvie. But if you look at the numbers, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Richard Ogilvie did not do as well as expected in central Illinois. Is that a fair statement to say? And is that accurate? And it was really not, it could be interpreted that it was not the income tax that defeated Richard Ogilvie. It was other issues that central Illinois was most concerned with.
Bernie, they tell me that you teach state government, and I'm sure you do it capably. And that question you asked right there tells me that you do your homework. That's very accurate, extremely accurate. That's what, great part, caused Ogilvie to lose. Sure, people were unhappy about the income tax, but Ogilvie had also done some very good things for roads and et cetera in the state. And I came along again. He lost touch with the people, particularly downstate. I established a strong bond with those people downstate. And so the Democratic organization, yes, turned out some votes for me up in Chicago. But that bond that I established is what did it for me and what undid both Paul Simon and Ogilvie.
You came to Springfield in 1973. You brought a whole flock of brand new people to state government. How did you pick these people?
Well, some of them, Bertie, I met on the walk. I stayed every night with a different family, and I'll use one as an example. Sid Martyr. Sid was up in LaSalle, Peru, where he lived with his wife, Natalie, a wonderful lady, and they both still live right here in Springfield. I want to tell you, they're an admirable couple, and that woman, Natalie, is something else. I stayed at in their house on the walk and enjoyed it so much and got a feel for him. And so when I became governor, we got involved in a mess with energy during those years, and I said, you know, there's a guy out there that I met that has the right kind of a streak in him, the right kind of a head that I want on my team. So I called him up and asked him, will you come down here and get in charge of this energy situation? And he did. Sid did, and he took charge, and he did a marvelous job. And there's another one who lives right here in Springfield, Mary Lee Leahy. Mary Lee, God bless her, has been with me from the very beginning. Now, she's a Chicagoan. She's an independent Chicagoan. That lady has got independence built into her. She's determined, she's smart, and she did a grand job as running the Department of Children and Family Services. Mary Lee, great gal. My team, yes.